Going. All right.
Terrific. Now, just to start out, everyone, I do want you to know that if your video is on, you must know that you are being recorded and that this recording will be distributed. Okay, so you are giving us permission. Secondly, please leave your microphones off. Only the speakers will have their microphones on as they are speaking. This way we can assure everybody that's on this call, as well as those who'll be listening to it in the replay, will have the opportunity to get every word of these incredible experts that we have with us today. So, Ames, did you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I just want to say welcome to this is Live with Marcy and Amy. This is the Heart-Centered Woman. It's a monthly event that she and I put on together where we invite, as she said, these beautiful experts to help support women in their life and their relationships, their business. And this is a highlight of our month,
Yes,
Marcy and I. Not because, we like to talk to each other and have fun with each other, but we also love to have and gain wisdom from these beautiful experts that we bring on our show. This is a monthly live on the set every third Thursday. And we are happy, if this is your first time here, we welcome you and we're so happy to have you. And for those returning students, you know who you are. We always are so happy that you are in our community.
That's right, exactly. So with that, let's see. Let's talk about what we're going to say.
Well, say the theme for today's show.
Yeah, okay. The theme of our show today is one that I think is of great importance, and particularly at this time. The theme is how to navigate your cycles of life, transition through your endings and beginnings with ease and empowered to create your future. So with that, we'd like to invite our experts to talk a little bit about themselves. Nikki, would you like to start us off?
Thank you, Marcy. I'm Dr. Nikki Starr, and I'm a former medical doctor who I left Western medicine in 2012. I had a spiritual awakening and then went and traveled around the world. And at that time, I started to awaken my natural healing abilities, my intuitive abilities. I come from a lineage of Colombian healers and shamans through my mother's line. And as I was awakening my memories of past lives, lives on other planets, I realized that humans are much more than just the mind and the body. We're really multidimensional. We are quite complex, beautiful beings. And to really live our ultimate lives and our ultimate potential, it's so important that we also include the spiritual aspect of our being. And so since leaving Western medicine, I have now completely shifted my practice where I'm really about supporting people into their ultimate potential. And that can look different for everyone. And I do that through a lot of my online courses and offerings and through my podcast and my social media. And it's really about awakening humanity into this new paradigm we're stepping into, where we remember that we're creator beings and we create everything about our lives. And with that, as we go through transitions and cycles, when we choose a spiritual lens, we see how everything is serving us. And so I'm looking forward to talking about that today. So thank you for having me.
Wonderful. We're thrilled to have you. And with that, Deborah, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Marcy, thank you. Hello. And I'm so excited to be here with all of you. And I love learning and meeting you ladies. I help you rock your mojo. And so what that means, it's all about reclaiming confidence, feeling incredible in your skin, and living a turned on life. And I just love hearing what you were sharing, Dr. Nikki, because, it's no surprise to me when the women that do gather and the circles that do get connected, how perfect it always is. One of my teachers along the way, I'm very much, all of my work comes from the foundation that everything is energy. And one of my teachers once said, no matter who is gathered, whether it's, two or more, but the collective is always the perfect collective. So I love that this collective that we're here today is the perfect one for all of us. And it's, it's one of the things I love to do is support women. I specifically work with women and really putting a context for women of these, what I call the 4 pillars of Mojo. And so all the courses, the mentorship that I run, also the podcast that I host and produce, these are all conversations where it unpacks the things that are in the way of you tapping into your natural, absolutely inborn mojo, which is your life force. I'm sure we'll talk more about that today. And it is just a pleasure and a joy to support women in uncovering that for themselves, because everybody has it. It has never gone away. Sometimes it just gets covered up from certain circumstances. And I discovered all of this through my own journey of feeling like I lost my mojo almost 30 years ago. And that catapulted me onto this path of awakening and of really seeking out, what does it mean to be a woman who's comfortable in her skin, who relishes in being in this beautiful rental vehicle called our bodies? And what does it mean to just activate the fullness on all levels, mind, body, spirit, of being a woman? And so that is what's led me to today in brief. And I'm really excited to share with everybody.
Amazing. Amy, actually, I'd like to ask you next. I just have to tell everybody, like Amy said earlier, we've been doing this show now we are almost in our 2nd year. We're having the most wonderful time, and I adore Amy. And so, Amy, please tell us all about you and what you bring to this beautiful round table.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I'm Amy Shade. I am a woman's life coach. I support women in really reconnecting with their passions. I work with embodiment and connection to universe and spirit through my radical embodiment method. I've been a performer my whole life, so a dancer. So I take what I've learned as a dancer and embodiment and as an empath, and I combined, my ear thing is singing, and I combined all that to help women really reconnect with their body, really get into finding their courage to start life over again. Many of them are come from a divorce or a breakup. And also, as an artist, I work with a lot of artists and healers who want to tap into their art again, who want to start living out passionately and to really create the confidence behind that. And so I work mainly with women, and it's my mission to really support women in their life. So we can, you guys out there can really create the energy and the life force and the positivity to really change the people that are around you, like your children, your partners, your family. So that's my big mission, is to really create empowered women for that. And with that, I'm going to introduce my co-host, Marcy Newman, who's such an impactful leader and supporter of women and self-love. So introduce yourself, Marcy. And
yeah, thank you. Thanks, Amy. So I hope everybody's appreciating the energy that you've got in this room right now. It's incredible. And we, of course, are here for you. So I'm Marcy Newman. I'm known as the Heart Shift Coach. And as Amy said, my focus is on self-love. This started to come to me in terms of revelation, actually, many, many years ago. And as many of you may have heard before, I'm actually entering my 50th year of helping people to heal their hearts. And so it's been an incredible journey for me. But at this time, I solely work with women because I believe that this is our time. It's absolutely essential that we come forward, but we come forward with the most important aspect of us, and that is our heart. It's my belief that our hearts as women are attuned to the goddess, the God self, and the characteristics and attributes that we bring to the table are exactly what the world needs now in terms of our leadership. And so you'll hear more later on as I'm talking about my work. And, we have our conversation about, this incredible theme of transitions, endings, beginnings, and how to emerge through it all, empowered to really step into who we are. So with that, I'd like to actually begin our program, and I'd like to invite everyone to close your eyes for a moment and to take a deep breath in with the intention that you are breathing directly into your heart to activate your higher heart so that you can receive what it is that we are all here to gift to you today. And it is a gift. Our speakers, Amy and I, we come to you with our hearts open, gifting you what we have to share. And so with that, I'd like to start actually with a quote from Martha Beck. And she says, "Any transition serious enough to alter your definition of self will require not just small adjustments in your way of living and thinking, but a full-on metamorphosis." In truth, both Amy and I believe that your life is a story of transition. You're always leaving one chapter behind while moving on to the next. But it's not just these events, but rather the inner revelations, the inner reorientations or self-definition that you have to go through in order to incorporate any of these changes in your life. So without transition, change won't work, and you'll find yourself back where you began. So to add, transition is not about becoming someone better, but finally allowing yourself to become who you have always been. So with that, let's all join our energies, our hearts, to explore how to navigate the cycles of life, transition through your endings and beginnings with ease and empowered to create your future. Amy, take us away.
All right. Thank you for that, Marcy. Beautiful. Before we start, I do want to say that if you have any questions, put them in the chat, because we will address those at the end of the show, near the end of the show. We love to answer your questions. So if I'm going to start with Dr. Nikki, and as she's speaking, you're like, I wonder how that happens. You have a question, just jot it down. And Dr. Nikki and the panel would love to answer that for you. So with that, Dr. Nikki, you have an incredible background of transitioning from a medical doctor trained in conventional and traditional medicine into a highly intuitive spiritual healer, teacher, and coach. What was it like for you to make that transition from the regular world into the world of the unseen or the ethereal? Was it a difficult decision to go from what society saw as a medical authority to following your spiritual authority instead, and not having the relevancy or prestige that you enjoyed in mainstream society?
So for me, there really was no choice. I think a lot of our big transitions in life, they don't really happen by choice. It's like you can't be inauthentic to yourself and stay in a situation that is no longer fitting. And that's what was happening. Is as I went through my medical education, I realized I had other gifts that were not taught in medical school, like being able to see energy, being able to intuit, oh, that shoulder pain is a relationship situation, and it's not actually a physiologic issue. And then when my intuition would not match with what our attending physician would want to treat the patient with, it just felt like this feels wrong. Even I remember people passing on the wards and then doing chest compressions. And I'm like, but it's their time to die. Like, why am I doing this? And so it was just really hard to even stay. And my spiritual journey just kind of took me around the world, and it kind of all happened by accident. So I find that a lot of times with transitions, a divine intervention happens. And that's what happened with me too, because I was on path to becoming a dermatologist. And it's just what I knew I was going to do. And I didn't even think twice about it. And then it wasn't until I was traveling the world, and I remember scuba diving in the Barrier Reef and having a oneness experience. And it was the first moment I had the thought of, well, is it really for my highest good to be a medical doctor and like sit in an office all day? Like, what about happiness? Like, here I am, like in one with nature. And I started to question life and all of reality, essentially. And it was my greatest gift to begin to question my reality, question my life decisions. And making that transition was shocking to everyone else, like my family. I come from grandparents who immigrated to this country with nothing, and so I was living their American dream. Their granddaughter went to medical school, and you're gonna leave? Like, what? And then when I started getting into spiritual practices and like an alternative lifestyle that's not that mainstream cookie cutter life that everyone imagines for their daughter, I remember even then thinking I was a little bit weird. And then it wasn't until I actually went on the Fox reality show, which is a whole other story, that they started to see the truth of who I was. And ultimately, like, they supported me, even if in the beginning I had to kind of choose my path solo and decide, like, I need to follow truth. I need to follow my heart, and I need to follow my spirituality. And so I did. Thank you.
Thank you for that. You want to ask Deborah her question?
Yes. So Deborah, you've gone from Hollywood film production to celebrated Feng Shui consultant to the author of Undressed and a mentor and mojo recovery specialist for women. So you clearly have gone through your transition. And on the surface, it would appear that you have hopped around a bit, trying to find yourself, your niche through which to share your gifts. Does that happen to all of us? Do you feel that? What was it like for you to have these dramatic shifts, and how did you make peace with giving one up for the other?
Thank you. And, so I love listening to you, because I feel like so many of us have very similar experiences in different outfits, right? It shows up in these different, in these just different uniforms in different ways. And I came from a family of, on my mom's side, her parents immigrated to America. And so it was very conventional in terms of the desires for what I would do in life. The fact that I went into film school, already a creative endeavor, was a little dicey. And it was really a dream of mine to do that. And I did, and I got hired by a, big Hollywood producer. And that's what brought me from New York to Los Angeles originally. And I never, ever thought I was going to leave New York. That was just not even a possibility. And then all of a sudden, here I was, this, young person in my early 20s, and my desire opened up across the country. And so I said yes, because that's all I knew at the time. And what was fascinating is, as the years started to go by, and my spiritual life, really opened up. Because here I was brought to Los Angeles, to a place where there was a metaphysical life and the metaphysical world and spirituality that was not hidden the way it was in New York back in the day. And I went, ooh, I could come out of the metaphysical closet now. I had already been involved in energy healing and was starting to work with gemstones, but in New York, that was very strange. And so getting myself into an environment of like-minded people was radically empowering, to the point that when I recognized I was repeating childhood wounding and patterns, dysfunctional patterns, through the work I was doing in the film business. No fault of anybody's. What happened was I noticed, oh, this is very similar and this does not feel good. I got the courage to leave that job, which was crazy because of course it was my dream job, and everybody, and making great money and on a track to be in Hollywood and do the Hollywood thing. But I left and I opened up a feng shui consulting business, as you mentioned, and it was scary. It was horrendously scary. However, it was, again, all I knew to do because it was such a yes. It was something that was pulling me. At that moment, that transition was very much a following of what I like to call the shove from above, right? I get these shoves from above. So in any case, that transition was led by that. And then the next transition was really more of what I would call a breakdown. And it was a breakdown in terms of my own spirit. And so that breakdown led to a breakthrough. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that over the course of this conversation. But I have found that breakdowns are beautiful opportunities. So, Marcy, let's get to you, my dear.
Are you ready?
Yeah, your life, right? With all 50 plus years of doing what you do, right? With all of its transitions in your life. Some might say it looks like a fold out map, right? And on the surface, you see interesting roads, but then you open it up and woo, you see page after page of these folded stories that are just filled with the stories of your life and the transitions that took you around the world. So I'm curious, out of all those ins and outs and all the ups and downs of your life, is there one transition that stood out that's impacted you more than others? And how did it impact you? And was it something you were actually prepared to navigate?
Such a great question. And quite honestly, as I'm in the question right now, I would say that in nearly every chapter of my life, there was actually I loved that phrase that you used, Deborah. What was it? What was it?
From above.
A what?
A shove from
a
above.
shove from above. It's so wonderful. But the truth of the matter is that I had been getting lots of shoves my whole life long. As a child, I had a number of past life or parallel life sort of instantaneous knowingnesses. I would get imagery of myself and in other lifetimes, both male and female. I thought everybody had it, to tell you the truth. And so I'd be sharing these stories and people would look at me like I had 12 heads. My parents, of course, were besides themselves that I would, talk about these things. And it became such a natural way of life for me that I think I actually maybe became a little numbed by it, because like I said, I really did think that other people had these same kinds of experiences, but in the sharing of them, I recognized that they weren't necessarily aware of them. And so what happened was, and I'm curious to know if all of you actually have experienced this, but in that numbing, I really started to shrink down a bit. And so I needed those shoves from above. And one of them that comes to mind actually was at a point where I thought my life was ideal. I had finally gotten my shit together, right? Like I had everything and anything, the perfect marriage, the perfect home, the perfect this, the perfect that. And all of it was just rolling and rolling and rolling. And I remember I was out in Montana for a wedding, and I'd always had this very strong affinity for the Native American. And I'm at this party, I look out into the backyard, and here's this authentic teepee. And so, of course, I snuck out of the party. What else would anybody do, right? And I went back into the teepee, and I remember standing there, and pulling back these ceiling flaps and immediately having this very cosmic experience. And I decided to lay down on the mats, and I was lying there thinking, my God, I'm the luckiest person in the world. And all of a sudden, like a ticker tape across my mind's eye, it says, how much longer do I have to do this, Lord? I bolted upright. I broke out into a sweat, jumped out of the teepee and vomited in the bushes. And what happened next, I'll share as we come around again. It was quite incredible. So with that, Amy, I'd like to come to you, because we all have these incredible stories of transition, and every single one of them is so important. And I know, Amy, that you have experienced so many ups and downs in your life that you have navigated through, as you said, as an artist. You know, I know you went through divorce, starting over after the death of your fiance, and going back to school, starting your own business. What has witnessing and supporting your fiance through his transition taught you about life cycles? And how has that changed you and how you navigate your life? Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Marcy, for that, and everyone else sharing your stories. Yes, let's talk about like the universe giving you a calling or something that you don't really ask for, that comes to you when you're in a loving relationship and someone that you are going to have a vision for spending the rest of your life with, and then within 6 weeks that being gone, and helping him through that transition of passing away, and what that meant for me as a human being was probably the greatest gift I was ever given. And when we're talking about cycles, right? So this is a cycle, and you're in the cycle. It doesn't feel that way all the time. You know, you feel blessed you're there to help someone, or that you are experiencing this beautiful but also frustrating and sad and lonely transition. It's has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And as we move forward through this conversation about cycles, the beginning, the middle, and the end, is that I'm here to tell you the end. At the end, it can be such a huge learning experience. It really cultivates empathy, it cultivates gratitude, it cultivates humanness. And that incident, that one thing that had its own cycle, beginning, middle, and an end, which of course never really ends, but this idea that he's no longer present physically with me, that how to come out of those instances more connected to self. Because what I had to do was find myself and who I was going to be after losing this vision of what my life was supposed to be and who I was supposed to be. And oftentimes we find this when we lose a job, we get a divorce, we have a death of a loved one, that we must find a way to reconnect with ourselves and to come out as our true self, who we want to be and who we see ourselves as being. And so that particular experience, which I'll talk throughout the other questions, was it just really taught me not to hold on to anything. To not feel like I'm entitled to anything. To feel grateful, to feel open, and to invite things into my life, and to invite things that I need to let go. And so the struggle I have found is when we try to hold on something that's not ours. It doesn't belong to us. It's not part of us. It comes and it goes. The cycle for that one thing is gone. It's not ours to be experienced anymore. And the lesson is the letting go. And so as we go through this conversation, this important conversation, it is important to see the experts here who have gone through such things and who are stronger than ever and feel more themselves than ever, and who feel the calling to support you and others in their work, in our work. So I hope that this conversation today leaves you with a lot of inspiration, possibilities for your life, and hope that there is something at the end of a cycle. And most of the time at the end of the cycle, what you're going to find is yourself, which is a beautiful, beautiful lesson and a beautiful experience. And before we move on, I see that Kathleen, I turned on the closed captions. I keep turning them on. I don't know. It's not working. I might have to go.
It doesn't seem to be working on my end.
Okay, let me try to go on the back end as the ladies are talking. And
If not, that's okay. But it's just I didn't think what happened is I came in on my phone and now I'm on a tablet.
Okay, so let me do some back end work.
That it's just on a different device.
Okay, I'll do my best on my end. I want to know that you're being heard and seen, so I will go ahead and do what I can do on the back end as I'll try to do some magic back there. So I'm going to go with Dr. Nikki. With such powerful shifts that you experience in how you saw yourself and your purpose here on earth, what can you share about navigating these extremes with more ease and grace, especially for people also on the spiritual path, now ready to up level from possibilities, transitioning from what was into what is now?
So for me, ever since I started my spiritual path, I immediately awaken the memories of like ritual and prayer and intention setting. So really like the magical aspects of creating our lives. And, I'm sure people drawn to spirituality in this life, you have your memories as lives from other times as a priestess or a witch or whatever, even like, some kind of sorceress where you are creating your life on purpose. And anytime I'm in a transition, and I kind of do it regularly for like housekeeping, is I always do rituals to release energy that's not serving me. So if something doesn't seem to be going quite right, right in quotations, I feel like, okay, like what is it within my field? Like I take full responsibility and I do whatever work I can to clear it on an energetic level. And then I set intentions, like what is it that I do want to experience? What is it that I'm wanting to create? What is my desire? And I get really clear on how I want to move the molecules in the universe because we're here to co-create any life we desire. And yes, we have that power. Absolutely. And I feel the power of prayer with meditation. I feel like they are sisters and brothers, like you pray, you ask for things, you ask the universe for something. And that time in meditation is a time to listen, a time to receive what the next action step is, a time to get that insight. It also increases our synchronicity so that an answer just comes to us. Like it's not really even our responsibility to figure it out. And for me, always leaning back into my spiritual practice, whatever that is at that point in time. At one point in time, it was more yoga. Another time it was more prayer. Another time it was more rituality. Another time it's more energy work. So whatever I'm feeling more in that moment. And even now I'm working with mantra. I'm working with a Kali mantra. And so I feel that any tool that we have to support us, but really us getting super clear, like, okay, I'm going through a transition, or I want to be. So let me take full power to make the changes. And I find, like with anything, to welcome something new, we must clear out the old. And so however that feels good for you in terms of clearing, can be really supportive to create space for the next chapter that's coming. Okay, and so now we go to Deborah. And so Deborah, what does it mean to be undressed?
Mhm.
And why have you chosen that theme for your work with women who are experiencing transitions in their lives? Is this the approach you have used for yourself? And how do you find this approach supports women to navigate these changes in their lives? Can you share how you experience this in your own life?
Thank you. Yeah, so getting undressed is about getting into your truth with a capital T. Again, I think when I started earlier, it was about like mentioning peeling these layers back, because you have mojo, right? You have this life force. Mojo is chi, ki, prana, whatever word you like to use. It is your natural life force that you, when you come back into this beautiful rental vehicle of a body, this life force inhabits your rental vehicle, and it will be with you until you decide, it's your time to move on. And so getting undressed is about getting back to that natural state of your vibrancy, your radiance, your magnetism. The title Undressed is from, it's my new book that is on pre-order now, and is this baby that I've been birthing. The conversation around it is a specific slice of mojo. And everything that I teach, everything that I share, not only comes from the foundation that everything is energy, which thank goodness science, by the way, has caught up to all of our, the shamans and the metaphysicians and the witches and, all of our priestesses and the lineages that have been around for thousands and thousands of years that have known about energy. Science, thank goodness, has caught up with it, right? And now proves there's this thing called the Higgs boson, right? They call it the God particle. It's the energy that moves everything in life. And I love that, scientists have proven this. So in any case, everything that I teach comes from that foundation and that knowing, and everything that I share does come from my own life experience. If I haven't done it, been through it, experimented on myself, I don't teach it. I don't utilize it with my clients, because I'm very committed to having that lived experience and walking my talk. That is, I don't know, I'm a native New Yorker, so maybe it comes with being a New Yorker, but like walking my talk is one of my true values. So all the things, and specifically about this path of undressed, is the connection to your pleasure, to your desire, and to this connection to your erotic nature. Now, sometimes, you hear erotic, but erotic is eros, comes from eros. And eros is your mojo specifically connected to your desire. That's the only difference, right? So we'll continue on with this, and I'll share more of how it supports you in your transitions on the next round. I want to go back to Marcy. And I think this is for you. I'm pretty sure this is for you. I'm just curious what you experienced in your personal life when you made this transition to focus from traditional medicine and healing into primarily working in the world of metaphysical healing.
Thank you for that. And yes, for me, it's all connected with that experience, that revelation that I had in the TP. Up until that point, I say I was, like the perfect mother, the perfect wife. I started my professional career both as a registered nurse, but it was also ordained as a spiritualist minister the same year that I graduated. And so in that ordination program, I was trained in hands-on healing, mediumship, channeling, and what we refer to today as energy medicine. And so my entire professional career has been sort of as a liaison between those two worlds. And what happened to me in the teepee was, with that revelation of my soul, like asking that question, how much longer do I have to do this, Lord? I stepped out of that teepee. Number one, I'm going to be perfectly honest, with such a deep sense of dread. I felt like something had just erupted from inside of me. But I also had this awareness that it had been speaking to me for such a long time. And I had spent many years putting little Band-Aids on it, trying to keep its voice very small. So I say I was, already at that point also had multiple certifications: hypnotherapist, past life regressionist, Reiki master, 2 levels worth, et cetera, but I never allowed it to come to the forefront of what I was doing. And in that moment of TP revelation, I knew I was being called to task. It was like, no more, no more Band-Aids. This voice needs to be heard. And to make a long story short, 1 year, nearly to the day, I was telling my husband of almost 30 years that I wanted a divorce. And what it required was that I literally leave behind nearly everything that had defined me for those 30 years, because it was not well received, as you can well imagine. And so I left my marriage, my home, much of my family, my friends, my community, my job, everything, to allow the clear intention of my soul to simply lead me. And I shifted from the life of living according to other people's expectations, what they needed of me, into asking just one question: does this serve my highest good? Does this serve me as a soul, as that particle of God that is here to be expressed? And needless to say, there were a lot of disappointed people, a lot of collapse in many avenues of my life. And yet it was so clear to me that that was exactly where I needed to be, what I needed to do. And of course, what I was here actually to develop. And when I really shifted into that place of being empowered with the most powerful aspects of me, everything changed for me. And it's why I'm here today, speaking with all of you and doing what I do. So having said that, and thank you for the question, Deborah, I'd like to come to you, Amy, because I'd like to hear what you have to say about the practice of shedding old beliefs and constructs that are so important as we go through life and its cycles, because I had a list this long that I had to address. So please talk to us about that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Marcy, and everyone else for sharing. So it's interesting that when my fiance passed away in 2011, that sadness, that energy, those beliefs, those dreams that were lost, that energy was living in my body, right? And so the process of going through a cycle is really releasing those hopes and dreams that really aren't available anymore when your partner dies, right? So releasing those and learning how to release those beliefs that, my future's gone. It wasn't supposed to go this way. We were supposed to be together for much longer. We were supposed to build a life together. And I had to slowly shed all of those beliefs about what my future was going to be, what love meant in our relationship, going from the physical to the non-physical. And it was interesting because, I would teach and dance for these summer programs. So people would see me once a year, right? And I was going through the process of grief and grieving and becoming my own person, going back to school at age 43, getting my degree at 46. Each year, people would be like, man, last year you didn't look so good. This year you're looking much better. Then the next year, see me again. Oh my God, you look like a whole new person. I was really worried about you last year. Then the third year, oh my God, you're really changing, right? And what was happening was I was shedding all of that sadness, shedding all of that energy, shedding what was supposed to be. And it shows up, like Deborah says, it's not just our mental doings in this world of letting go. It's the physical shedding that you get, like through getting divorced or going through a hard time, whatever, you're getting more confident, you're shedding all that energy. You physically change. The way you look changes, your skin changes, your eyes change, you're brighter, you stand up straighter, you're more confident. And so when we don't shed and think of it as shedding, releasing, we get stuck in the past. And though that past, there's nothing for us there. The grief is back there. The disappointment's back there. And we must shed all of that, go through the process, the cycle of shedding that, so that we are even able to grab the opportunities in front of us. Allow for the yeses. Allow for new love, allow for new opportunities. So it's important that really, to think of it as shedding. How can I shed this old belief that isn't serving me? How can I shed this anger towards someone else who I have no control over? How can I let go of what does not belong to me? That's really, it's a done deal. When your loved one passes away, although my teacher did say to me, Amy, you can't have an earthly relationship with him anymore. I was like, damn, okay, but that we must shed these in the cycle. And really, that really helped me through the beginning, the middle, and the end of that is how to shed what I cannot change. And so, I invite everyone to use that kind of languaging really helped me visualize letting go, shedding the skin. And then physically it happened. You will change physically as these negative energies start releasing from your body. And I'm going to go on to Dr. Nikki, but before that, I do want to say, and I want to, again, reiterate, put your questions in the chat box if you have any. Feel free on that. We're going to get back to them. And also, we do have a sponsor, Marcy.
That's right. We do have a sponsor. We're so excited about it. Amy, do you want to just bring that up on the screen?
Yeah.
So everybody can see it. And
yeah,
we have something really special for everyone. That's
yeah,
amazing.
So I'm going to just bring up the person's opt-in and all that, we always are looking for sponsorships and how they can help our audience. And she came up with this great plan to give our audience a $100 hotel savings card for each of our participants today who are on the call. We're going to put the link in the chat in a bit. But this is awesome. I went on this last night to see what kind of discounts you can get for hotels. And it's for all around the world. And basically, you put in your dates and it tells you what hotels are available. And then it shows you your savings. And you can apply this card towards any hotel, which is I thought it was great. I have to go to San Diego this next couple of weeks, so it's like I will be using this card on that trip. So it's a beautiful gift to our audience who is on this call today and who stays on the call. We'll put the link in the chat so you can sign up. But this is a special thing for our new sponsor, Trinity. It's down here. It's so small.
It
Trinity
is.
World Travel. Trinity World Travel. And I think that's it. I mean, I went out last night. I mean, I think it was a great gift for our audience and something that I feel good about presenting to everybody. So, oh my gosh, my life.
Amazing.
So with that, I think, do you have anything to add, Marcy, on that?
No, just that we're so grateful to Trinity World Travel, because we love when we can gift our audience special things.
Oh,
It
yeah.
makes us feel so great, and what a fantastic connection. So generous. And thank you so much, Trinity World Travel. We appreciate you so very much. Thank you.
And you can also use it, I believe, for car rental also. So just FYI, it's a whole thing. All right, Dr. Nikki, from your perspective, is there a difference in the approach one would take to navigate earthly transitions as opposed to more spiritual transitions? I mean, is it possible to bridge the two worlds and their cycles of life? And if so, how would you advise doing so?
Well, for me, everything is spiritual. So there is no such difference as an earthly transition or a spiritual transition, because when you choose to live a spiritual life and you live life through the lens of spirituality, everything that happens is spiritual. Like if you are going to leave your job, there's spiritual significance there because you are going through an expansion. Perhaps you learn greater boundaries. Perhaps you've healed this relational pattern that you keep having with the same kind of bosses and all the different jobs. And now you finally are like, I'm starting my own business. So really everything is spiritual. There's no difference. And so even as I was sharing in my last question, so the way you would navigate it would really be the same. I think that any types of transitions are asking us to continue our healing and our expansion journey. And it's always an opportunity. Like a breakup is a transition that has so many gifts and gems that can support us in opening our hearts to even more love. Even though you would think like, well, I feel the opposite. Like, I don't want to love, like, I'm so upset. So really everything is spiritual. And I actually invite everyone to, and I look at the spiritual significance of everything that happens in my life. I look at the spiritual significance if I get bit by a spider. I look at the spiritual significance if I suddenly develop a breakout in a certain area of my body. There's spiritual significance to everything. And I think that when we choose to live life that intentionally, this is what makes all the difference in what I feel is like we're here as souls to evolve. And the more you're collecting the lessons, in my opinion, the more easeful and graceful your life will be. Because when we're not listening to the lessons and the messages, they start off as like whispers, and then it gets a little louder, and then it's a tap, and then it starts banging. And so I believe we minimize suffering when we can really extract the lessons from everything we're living. And especially our transitions, because anytime we're changing something in our lives, we're changing timelines. And because I feel, and my work is so much about living our ultimate potential, living our highest potential timeline, it is only serving to see everything as an opportunity for growth spiritually at the soul level. And and I feel like I just want to see if there's anything else to your question that I can add, but that feels quite complete. It's like everything is spiritual. And spirituality, another definition for spirituality is giving things meaning. And so the more we give meaning to our life, also, I feel we have a richer experience. There's a deeper connection to whomever we lived experiences with, but then also the memories we take with us. And so even just having that time to reflect and engage in a way that is like, wow, this is serving me. And even having that spiritual lens of like, how is this serving me? How has this situation served me? What is the silver lining? Like, even if maybe it seems like a tragedy, like, how is this really the greatest gift that's ever been given to me? And I often reflect back, even when I left Western medicine, like, thank goodness, like I left, and that divine intervention that I experienced is I was on track to be a dermatologist. And when it came time for the match, one of the institutions that I interviewed at, they had an open spot and I didn't match in derm, but it was my way out. It was like my divine intervention. And at the time I was upset, but within 3 months, I was like, oh my gosh, that's why that happened. I could have never went on my spiritual journey around the world had that not happened. So there's spiritual significance in everything, and really everything has a silver lining. And so thank you for that question, Marcy, Amy. And so now we're going to go back to Deborah. And so Deborah, can you share with us on how sexuality, sensuality, and spirituality assists with life transitions? Do any of these life aspects ever cause issues rather than assisting with navigation? Has it ever happened to you?
I love this question, and particularly after you so beautifully reminded all of us that everything is spiritual, right? Everything. And this is the approach that I take, and the conversation that I am so engaged in and passionate about, which is really bridging and merging and helping women to understand that your sexuality and your spirituality are the same. There is no separation. There is no difference. Again, everything is energy. It just has different flavoring, and it's all part of your path. And the thing that is so clear to me at this stage of my life, and after decades of being in the weeds with experimenting with all of this stuff, and I talk about this so much in the new book, Undressed, this is when you are merged with, and when you drop shame around your sense of self as a sexual being, you can choose to be asexual. However, if that's a choice, if that is something that has occurred without a conscious choice, that is, that doesn't count in my opinion. We are all built and wired for pleasure. These bodies, I keep calling it a rental vehicle because that's what I believe. We have no idea how long the lease is, on this rental vehicle, but it's the one we got. And it is wired for pleasure. We experience our life through our senses, and our 5 senses are, barely scratching the surface of what's available to us. However, as humans, this is how we experience and interact with life. So on the very basic level of being a sensual, being connected to your sensuality, it is about consciously engaging in your senses instead of just, walking through life like many of us do, and I did for a long time, as sort of just a robot. It's about taking that moment like, oh, how does this cup feel in my hand? Being conscious of that, how does this oil, this beautiful essential oil right here smell? Taking a moment in the middle of your workday to just have a deep breath and have a beautiful moment of sense in smelling. Again, we just talked about touching the cup. What is the lunch that you're eating? How does it actually taste in your mouth? What are you listening to? It's so great that you're all here listening to this beautiful panel of women, because all of the things that you connect with every day, you are connecting through your senses, whether you're aware of it or not. So the first thing is to become conscious of your sensuality, your engagement of life through your senses. That's the initial gateway. That starts to bring your body online. No connection to your senses, living life only above your neck, which is a life of stress and fear and doubt more often than not. When you engage with the body, as we've been talking about, this is when your mojo comes online. This is when you can connect to your pleasure. And this is when, again, you start to awaken to your own sense of sexuality, your own energy in a way that is fulfilling and filled with desire. A woman who is connected to her sexuality specifically is frankly more connected to her power. She has less fear. And this is my personal experience. The more that, and I'm a woman who grew up in a home of domestic violence. I'm a woman who was raped the first time she had sex. You know, these are things that I have transitioned through over the years to get to a space of heart open, spirit connection, body alive and online, and unafraid to ask for what I want in or out of the bedroom. Those are the things that help you through transitions. Those are the things that will really support you in your life in all aspects, but certainly when you're going through transition. And if there's time a little later, I'll share about a big one that I went through personally just about 1.5 years ago, and how pleasure and being connected to my eros made a world of difference and kept me in a really enlightened and forward moving path. But I want to turn it back over to Marcy. So, Marcy, my dear, please, more from you. Now, I've just shared a couple of my own traumatic events, but they say that, you know, most traumatic events in our lives, right, are divorce, death of a loved one, illness, loss of a job, and moving, right? I'm just going to add in, they say like moving, death, and taxes, right? These are the things that are the most stressful, right? You've experienced all of these in your life. And I think what you said, especially in your last physical move count, it was 15 times in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I was like, in my first 14 years, I moved 7 times. I thought that was a lot. So how do you navigate such extreme changes? And what advice do you have that will support others to do the same?
First off, I want to thank everyone for the heart-centered sharing that is taking place here. You are the most amazing women. Deborah, thank you for sharing, those parts of you that have clearly become so powerful with those transitions. And I look forward to hearing the rest of your story that you'd like to share with us. In terms of navigating transitions, I think that, everyone here is really expressing that we must go through that transition, get to the other side of it in order to really be able to harness the energy of it. But every step along the way, there is opportunity for us to rise through and above what is presenting to us. So interestingly enough, the same year that Amy lost her fiance, I lost my youngest son. He was 21 years old, senior in college, and I had dinner with him, and 2 hours later, he was killed on his motorcycle. People say to me, how did you ever survive that? And assume that that was the most traumatic experience of my life. And I have to tell you, and this speaks to actually what Nikki was sharing earlier, I had already made the transition that I was living my greatest spiritual life. That when that occurred, I have to tell you, I learned more about peace, and this is going to sound absolutely bizarre. I learned more about joy. through that experience than I have in any other experience that I've had. I'm not going to begin to tell you that it wasn't traumatic. Of course it was. He was my best friend. He was also somewhat of a protege, you know, had helped me to develop a manufacturing business, actually. And I was manufacturing law of attraction products at the time, after having received a whole series of downloads. And it was traumatic in as much as any sudden loss of that energy that has been receiving your love and you having been received their love can possibly create. However, who I became in that transition, it's who Amy talks about, who she became. I could never even begin to give it the merit that it deserves. And I am here because of the transition that I made during that time. I am here. I have a knowingness of my connection to source energy as being who I am in a way that I never could have experienced it otherwise. And so my transition from that experience has been where before I would say I believed, I now, without any doubt, can say, I know. And what I've come to know is what I'm here to share. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. It's an honor, really, to be here amongst all of you. You're so incredible. So with that, Amy, I'd like to ask you, because I know you talk so much about values, and values to you also are spiritual values that help guide and support you through each phase of life cycle. How do these provide the guidance? What do they do for us? How do we connect with them?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story, Marcy. Yeah, I mean, you have those spiritual tools, you have some sort of all the work that you've done in your life and supporting others. When that tragedy hits, you know, I'm thankful to hear that you had those resources in front of you and that they supported you through that transition. So how do we get those resources? How do we get those tools as life comes at us? Because it will come at us in a way that sometimes, as Nikki says, a little, you know, hey, and then sometimes like, hey, you know, I just knock you out. And I will see in my own life, it knocked me down. That was, you know, I was like, damn, whoa. But that's okay. You learn along the way. And so it's important that we know that this is a learning process and you don't need to be where we're all at in different areas of our life, and that just you showing up on this program and listening and being a part of it is part of learning how to navigate life and these cycles that come our way. So in my own life, what I have found, and through my practice and through embodiment, is really getting in touch with your values, not thinking about your values, but living your values through embodiment. And so these values will be the guiding lights as your mind is trying to talk you into being afraid, talk you out of your dreams and desire, as your mind is trying to negotiate something that is just not aligned with your values. And so our values for me, we do embodiment of our values. That means we embody them. And like, for example, how does that look like? Well, like I talked about this last year, I think. I did a challenge with my messaging group, and there was this challenge of getting all these posts done. And my mind was like, it's too much, Amy, it's not enough time. You can do something better. Do you really want to commit to this? But the thing that brought me to the end of that is my values that were inside of me. My body was like, oh, hell no. This is not part of who you are. Who you are lives in your body. It doesn't live in your mind. So that me knowing my values as being resilient, I love getting things done on time. I love to be efficient and yet, fun. And I love to be creative. And I was like, my body actually was the one who stood up for me, and my values stood up for me. As my mind is trying to talk me out of it. So when we understand and know and embody our values, they must live inside of joy, freedom. It's in the way we hold our body. It's how we show up. It's how we walk into a room. When we are in touch with them, when they live inside of us, they will help guide us in the very beginning of a cycle. As things are coming to the middle of the cycle, they will be our guiding light to really keep us on our visions and what we desire. And as they go to the end of the cycle, there's something that you can always depend on. That no matter what goes away, you have these values inside of you that will carry you through the end of the cycle as you begin another cycle. So values are really important to your values, your personal values of what's important, and it's not about being right or wrong. Like my values are freedom, resilience, peace. These are the things that live in my body. These are the things that navigate every conversation I have, because when I talk, it's through my body. They are the things that go, Amy, that doesn't sound right. Even as I try to negotiate something that I really want, and I'm like, maybe I just finagle around here. My body's like, nah, I don't think so. That's not really working. So it's important that we know our values, and they are our guiding lights. They are the things we embody. They are the things that are expressed through the body. And I'm sure you've seen it on people who walk into a room, what their values are, just by the way they're holding their body, their energy. So I would definitely, understand your values, what's important to you, and then learn how to embody them, really express them through your body. How are we doing on time, Marcy? We're going into the next round before questions. So if anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat about how to navigate your life through these cycles that you might be going through right now. Feel free to put them in the chat. We're going to grab them and we are going to answer them.
Yeah.
So
I think we have time for
I think
Nikki
so too.
and Deborah. So let's keep going.
Let's keep going. Okay, Dr. Nikki. We suspect that there are some transitions that seem to be tougher than others. Is that because we're all ill-equipped with tools, or do they have a greater impact due to their reasons? Is there a better way to address these other cycles? These other than cycles?
Well, I think that firstly, the universe, God, the creator, spirit guides, whatever you believe in, will never give you something you can't handle. So what I think shocks some people more than others is I think there's two types of transitions. There's the transition I feel that comes from within you, like you are coming to the awareness that something is no longer aligned, and then you are the one making the conscious choice to end or change something. And then there are the transitions that happen that really are out of our control, such as the death of a loved one, or if we get fired from our job, or a myriad of other things, or if even sometimes with sickness, it can go either way, because when we really reflect on our lives, it's like, were we acting in aligned health? Like, how are we taking care of our bodies? How are we taking care of our minds? Were we sleeping well? Like, we can kind of look at how we've been treating ourselves and our bodies and our hearts and our minds. And so that also sometimes we can feel, some people can feel hopeful with transitions that have to do with health, because they see like, oh, okay, well, I wasn't eating right, and then I was doing that. So, I can empower myself and make these changes and shift my health, right? So I think it's more about what we feel is in our control and what's not in our control. And ultimately, what's not in our control, even though it can seem the hardest, it could be one of the greatest gifts, because all we can do is surrender. Like, there's nothing we can do about it. And sometimes these will take us on the deepest journeys into our hearts, or, break our hearts open, because there's nothing we can do but surrender. And sometimes that's the greatest place to be. Like, I've even had clients and students say like, well, I want the choice to be made for me. And it would just be easier if I could just know. And so I find that if you find yourself challenged by a transition, go back to and look and see where you can just surrender. And also, I feel, how you were talking, Amy, about values, I feel like it's really a great idea to have these like underlying belief systems that are really supportive. And some of mine are: everything is happening for my greatest becoming. Everything is always serving my greatest becoming. And so when we have these surprise transitions that come, or changes that happen, even so I can give you a good example where, I manifested like everything I wanted. I was living Malibu beachfront, and my business was going great. It was like a $500,000 year. I was like, oh, I have everything, except I didn't yet have my beloved. And so I'm like, I felt like I was in this white tower in Malibu, and like life was great, right? And then things started to kind of break down. Like, there was rains, and then water leaked into the house, and then there was mold, and then I had to move, and then that lease was coming to expire, and then I got stung by a stingray, and I kept getting like all these messages like, you need to leave Malibu, like leave, and then I did. I moved to Ibiza. I'm now living in Spain, and I met my love, and now I live in a seafront home, better than Malibu, like warmer waters, clearer waters. And, things had to break down. So I would actually like go and move, because sometimes we get really comfortable. So if you feel like things are like, oh, not going right, ask yourself, like, what can change? Like, how can I transition myself? Like, is this being asked of me? And I think that then it becomes back into your power again. And so, yeah, that's a great question that can help us navigate different types of transitions. So let's go back to Deborah now. What does pleasure have to do with supporting an empowered transition and change? What if your pleasure is at the expense of another's happiness?
Thank you. And I also just so appreciate what you were sharing, because it was such a great example also of like breakdowns leading to a beautiful breakthroughs, right? Pleasure. I think it's really interesting, because when we go through transition, in terms of how we're taught and what society pulls for, is struggle and suffering. Like, ooh, especially in our Western culture in America, it's like, ooh, the more you suffer, right, the more important you are, the greater you are. And I think that's a whole load of bullshit. And I've come to really recognize that. And what pleasure has to do with transitions is it gives you some grace. It gives you some space amidst the challenge of the transition. Now, not every transition is going to feel like a breakdown, but I would say for the most part, the majority of people don't really love change, right? Like, it's something that's guaranteed in life. It's something that will consistently be happening, whether on a small scale or a large scale. And as you start to navigate and as you go through these transitions, if you allow yourself and you give yourself permission, and maybe you're like, I heard that like Mojo lady who like had that book Undressed or something on this, like this talk once. And she said, I got to give myself permission to have more pleasure. That's going to be a good thing, by the way. And sometimes we need permission from outside sources. So consider this your permission slip for pleasure. I didn't grow up with permission to have pleasure. My MO was survival, and my MO was taking care of the tribe, right? I grew up really fast. And pleasure was something that I learned. Pleasure was something that I relearned is actually our birthright. And again, it's how we are wired, as particularly if you came back, in this this woman body. We are very specifically wired for pleasure because we got something that not everybody has called a clitoris. There is zero reason for it except for pleasure. And it has approximately 80,000 nerve endings in this one little area. What's it there for? Pleasure. Now, whether you experience pleasure through, what is considered to be your sexuality, or you experience pleasure from sinking your teeth in your mouth into like a juicy mango, right? Or you experience pleasure by hugging a tree, laying your body on the earth and feeling the sun just press into you, feeling the earth uphold your body. I mean, pleasure is possible in every single situation. And I was saying that, I went through this transition a year and a half ago, which was moving. It happened very suddenly. It's a story for another time, but it was definitely a kick in the head from spirit. And moving is my Achilles heel. I briefly mentioned I moved 7 times by the time I was 14, and every time was because of some sort of trauma. It was because of domestic violence. It was never a pleasurable experience. And so there's that neurobiological wiring that says, moving is trauma. So this last move, knowing what I know about myself, knowing that this was a powerful and a very intentional move, I specifically consciously included pleasure into the experience, which, again, was dancing as I was packing the boxes, right there. That was just one way. My sister came out to help, and, eating good food. So there's always a way to have pleasure in your life. And through the transitions, it makes it so delightful. And one thing I quickly want to say, which is it's always this, whatever this is right now, because right now, this is it. This is it. But it's always this or something better. It's always this or something better. That's what is available for you. So let's bring it back to Marcy. Yes. All right. So Marcy, for you, what would you say is the number one thing that you've learned or come to a higher level of understanding that has allowed you to emerge in this empowered and able to create your next chapter with clarity and strength and grace?
Thank you for that, Deborah. Amy, we have some wonderful questions, and I'm thinking that maybe at this point we'll go into questions so that we can make certain that they get answered. And then at the end, should we have time, we'll go into that last round. And also, of course, we have our Connect the Dots at the end of the show, and we will continue with questions there. But is that okay with you, Abe?
Yeah.
Is that good? Okay.
Yes, if you got questions, put them in the chat box.
We have wonderful questions.
Oh, great.
So I want to start first with the pre-submitted question. This came, let's see. Yes, here we go. This was a pre-submitted question, by the way. Once you're part of our community, we give you the opportunity to submit your questions first, and they are always the first questions to be responded to. Okay, so that's another one of the perks to become part of our membership. And it really does make certain that you are getting your questions answered in real time. Okay, so here's the question. How can one find a bigger perspective when you're in the midst of a transition? Nikki, can we start with you, please?
Sure. I feel like this is going back to what I just shared in the last question, which is if we always have a premise for our belief structures about life, like I trust everything is happening for my greatest becoming. What's the silver lining in this situation? Everything is serving me spiritually. No matter what is happening, you can extract a greater meaning. And so if we're bringing spirituality to every single situation we're living, and we know that it's serving the expansion and the growth and the evolution of our soul, then you'll receive the bigger perspective if you just answer those questions. So for example, with me, let's say when I was leaving Malibu, it was like, oh my gosh, like this is my dream come true. Why am I moving? Like, what am I doing? You know, but then knowing like, okay, or even as we said, this or something better, there's these things that we're trusting, and like we're trusting, okay, it's this or something better. This is happening for my greatest becoming. In Ibiza, I'm going to meet the man of my dreams, right? So we see how the pieces might be falling apart, but something better is going to come together. And only we really know the answer to that as well. So even when I've coached clients and I ask them like, okay, so like how is this serving you? I know this, I recently had a client who expanded, to create a third clinic, and it was causing a lot of problems for her. And ultimately, I felt intuitively it's going to be like your biggest clinic. It's giving you like the biggest stress, but it's going to be the best and the biggest. And it turned out that way. And it caused her to have to really grow as a leader, as a business owner in so many different ways. And so only we can extract that from within, but it's serving us. It's always serving us. And just by coaching ourselves and asking ourselves those questions, we can get to that distillation point.
Beautiful. Thank you. Deborah, how would you answer that question? How does one find a bigger perspective when in the midst of transition?
That can be really tough. I'm just going to say it, like sometimes that can be really challenging depending on, the magnitude of the transition. And the thing that I found that always works, and is not always easy for people, if you're not somebody who has done this on the regular, it's about getting quiet and slowing down. Now, getting quiet and slowing down can feel really scary, especially if you're used to just moving and moving and moving, and you're not used to listening to yourself or listening to a higher connection to spirit. I'm constantly sharing with my clients and my ladies about the power and the potency and really the wisdom that happens when you just simply slow down. And if slowing down looks to you like taking 5 minutes in the day to do nothing, go sit on your back stoop, just lie down on your living room floor, right? Or just sit in the chair that's not in your workspace. Just start with 5 minutes and do nothing. And then start to feel. There'll be the discomfort. Your mind will probably be racing, but you've got to be able to get into a space of a slower pace and a slower movement in your mind to be able to listen to the deeper wisdom. it's not going to come, as you're racing 5,000 miles an hour and going through incredible amounts of stress. There's no room, right? We were also talking about like creating the space for the new energy and the wisdom to come. So I think that's really the important place to start.
Thank you so much for that. Amy, can you jump in there?
Sure. Yes. I think what Deborah said to slow down. So women, when we are in a high state of this, it's very hard for us to make really good decisions, aligned decisions. And so slowing down and doing breathing exercises, taking a moment, and this is always my go-to sentence, which is, I am where I'm supposed to be. Where's the lesson? What can I learn? Take a deep breath and just say that over and over to yourself, and sit quietly and calm your body down and go into radical acceptance, which I coach on, and just be present in the now. You don't need to know about tomorrow. First, you need to sit with self. I am where I'm supposed to be. Where's the lesson? And so when you do that, things come up for you. Possibilities show themselves to you. And not only that, but it calms your nervous system down, because oftentimes we think action is the answer. But not taking action is also an action. So we must allow us to sit with self, give us the grace and the time to come to our own conclusions without influence from anyone else or people pleasing. And so when you have that, it gives you a lot of peace in the moment. And then it opens up doors, your body, it opens up your body to hear yourself, your mind. It allows you to receive information from Mother God. It allows for a lot. We do not, you cannot receive if you're like, it just doesn't it doesn't work for women. I don't know about men, but for women, I know we need to feel safe. We need to feel empowered. We need to feel calm. We need to feel like we have control over what is next or what can happen next. And I think that's so important for us as women to understand that we were told, do more, do more, do more. Yeah, just do it all. You can do it all. And somehow that's going to be enough. And all that does is just take us farther and farther away from ourselves.
Good point. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to move into the next question. I'm the oldest of 3 daughters. However, I really am the second child. My older brother died at 3 months of age from complications of a genetic order called Sticker's syndrome that I have dealt with my whole life. I think this can be a chronic trauma. Is this true? I want to get back in my body. Nikki, you have words of advice?
I find this is partly why I left Western medicine, because I did find that when people identify with a sickness or an illness as an identifying trait versus something that you are experiencing or have in that moment, it does create this almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy that we could think of as a trauma. Like, oh, they have this, or, oh, and it was very labeling. And the truth is, I believe that we can heal through everything and anything, even things that are genetic, inherited disorders or diseases, because the foundation of everything is energy. And this is what epigenetics is about. We can change how our DNA is expressed even if we are born with something inherited, we can actually clear it from our field with energy work. There's now frequency medicine. There's so much out there, whereas Western medicine, in my opinion, it does have its places where it serves, but I find it to be a very dependent system, and it creates codependency where then you feel that you have to continue to go to doctors and take these medicines. And in my opinion, it doesn't really empower people. And I don't find that it's always healing. It is a cycle that gets perpetuated. So I would like to share with this person that there absolutely is hope, and there are many modalities that can support you to heal and clear this from your DNA line, from your ancestral line, and that it is something that you can set your intention to do and really release yourself from the stories and the projections. And I have a lot of theories about like what we say as identifying with ourselves to imprint ourselves or not. And yes, you can heal yourself from the trauma of that if you so desire to. And it's just beautiful to bring this question here because it shows that you may be ready to, and perhaps you are. And so I wish you well on your healing journey.
Thank you for that, Nikki. Deborah, would you like to jump in here?
Yeah, it was interesting to hear the question, and also Dr. Nikki, I loved your answer because I was not honestly exactly clear on what the person who asked this question was looking for, right? Is it this, are they afraid of also having this genetic disease? Is this what the question is?
Actually, I have it. It's very strong on my mom's family.
Okay.
So we all have it. But the thing was, at that time, it wasn't even understood when my brother was born.
Mhm.
It wasn't even identified till 65, and he was born in 63.
Mm.
So our family found out because fortunately, the hospital in our area recognized that we had it, and they did a study on us.
Thank you.
So, so it was extremely helpful to have that study because I still have my eyesight.
Mm.
Otherwise, I probably would be blind because we actually get all the old diseases when we're kids.
Hmm. Thank you for clarifying that for me. I didn't
It's
realize.
just that I didn't know how to formulate. I'm just saying, I know there's theories about how if you put in an older, I'm in the elder situation my whole life, but actually there was someone that was before me. So I kind of have that confusion going on in my mind too.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
kind of understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that for
you.
me. And I think, so much of what Dr. Nikki said is beautiful. And what I will add to that is the final piece of the question was, how to get into your body. And that really is a quite a simple choice. I'm not going to say it's easy, and yet it's a simple choice. And if you're saying, okay, I am ready to be in my body, it's kind of like if you go to the ice cream store and I'm just saying, okay, if we hand you chocolate, vanilla, choose. Right? So there's going to be a choice. So if the desire is to get in your body in a new and a different way, then that's what you choose. And the rest of it does not come with you because you've left now the ice cream shop with your, I am getting back in my body. And that's, that I would say in terms of when I look at the Mojo system I've created, that's the first piece because that's mindset. And then you can start to go into the embodiment practices. And then there's the other kind of two parts of the Mojo system, which would be joining with the part of you, the different role, joining with this role and this aspect of you that knows how to be in your body and feel really good and confident in there. So those are the things that I would add to that.
Great, thank you. And Amy, do you have any quick embodiment principles that you'd like to share?
Well, I'd like for you to share, because it sounds like there is, and I know Dr. Nikki touched on it, about the story about the sibling and how that has shaped, it seems like shaped everyone's experience in such a way. Whether it's guilt or, this
Well, my
entity or
parents
whatever
have
it is,
always
yeah.
been,
Very.
my parents have always been mourning,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
mourning.
Yeah.
And I mourn too, but I will say I'm different from some of you guys. I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Mm.
So we also have we believe that we're going to see him, that he'll be resurrected on earth again. So we are looking forward to seeing him again, still as a baby, but healthy as a baby instead of sick. But I just, in the stuff I've listened to, I have heard that sometimes if you put in the older position, and it can, I don't totally believe or stuff, but I can understand how if I always felt like I was the oldest child and had to take care of my sisters, because we did have issues with trauma issues, because my dad had health issues that hadn't been dealt with. So we had anger.
Excuse me, 1 second, Kathleen. I think
And I'm sorry for taking your time.
Well, what I was going to suggest is that you stay with us
Yeah.
for Connect the Dots, and then we can talk about this more. And I do want to thank you for bringing this question forward. And I'm certain that all of us can relate in somewhat, to any aspect of this. So with that, I would like to ask the next question very quickly. And then we're going to hear from our experts. The next question, everybody can just answer. Does anyone meditate? And if so, how has it empowered your life? Nikki.
So I'm a big meditator, and actually I have meditations that stream on all the platforms that you can listen to if you have Spotify or Apple Music or wherever. And so, yeah, you can listen to, I've created these for you all to listen to if you'd like to. I love meditation because it's really a time for energy hygiene. It's a time where we can clear and let go of energies and thought forms and things that are not serving us, and a time we can come back home to ourselves. So for me, my life works in such ease, grace, synchronicity the more I meditate. And I have even found that if I don't meditate, that I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to meditate, because it is such a beautiful space to ground, create spaciousness, to get clarity. And there's so many types of meditation. So depending on the day, but oftentimes just that stillness, that silence, that quietness. And if you're not sure, then you can just allow yourself to be guided. And I'd also want to make it clear that a meditation is specifically a concentration practice with a one point of focus. And so anything that causes you to focus your mind instead of it like rambling around with anxieties and worries and to-do lists, that's what a meditation is. That time you focus and concentrate. And by doing that, that's how you clear the mind. It's not that you sit there and all of a sudden your thoughts disappear. It's because you work the muscle of your mind to focus and concentrate.
Beautiful. Thank you. Deborah, do you meditate?
Absolutely. Similarly to Dr. Nikki, like I don't feel right if I don't. And I will go through different phases of specific types of practices, depending on what I feel is necessary and needed for my path and to be able to serve as cleanly and clearly and powerfully as possible. And so, sometimes that looks like a very specific practice, whether it's for 3 days, 9 days, 27 days, sometimes up to 40 days of one specific practice. And then other times it will just look like, okay, I'm going to get on my meditation seat. I believe in creating altar spaces. And that can be, again, just a simple flower, a saying that you love, a photo of something that feels good to you. Altars are what you create them to be. That's actually part of the fourth pillar of Mojo, is creating an oasis that fuels you with Mojo. And altars are a great way to do that. They dial in and offer you an opportunity to pinpoint some energy that says, okay, here is a space where I get to connect with my higher self. Here is a space that is dedicated to, my greatest awakening. And it will be a beautiful reminder in your environment for you to be able to do that. So I'm going to be completely honest, I don't always love meditating. However, I love the result. And I know that once I am, on the other side of the practice and, quote, taking the time to do it, because that can seem, it's so overwhelming to take the time to meditate. But again, it can be as simple as 3 minutes, 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long situation. Once you do get to the other side of it and you reap the clarity, the confidence, the yumminess in your own mind and the yumminess in your own body, it becomes a desire, right? It becomes this thing that supports you in your daily sense of being.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. My answer to that question is yes, I meditate. Amy?
Yeah, I'm a reluctant meditator. So I do it. I use visualization and reflection because I don't know if you see, my mind and body to sit in one place is a discipline. I do it with my dance also. So in my practice as a dancer, I allow for a lot of spiritual hookups and knowings. But yeah, if you're not good at meditating, you don't have to be good. There are other ways to do it. Like there's different ways of meditation, and I do visual meditation.
Yeah, that's great.
That helps
And
me.
by the way, I rarely get out of bed or start my day without my meditation. It's that important to me. So with that, I think because of the time, I'd like to ask Dr. Nikki if you can wrap things up for us and tell us about you, about your work, how people can find you, and definitely tell everyone about the free gift that you've so generously offered. And then after we finish with that, we'll go directly into our Connect the Dots. So after we hear from Deborah. So Dr. Nikki, can you start?
Yes. So firstly, thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure to share on these topics. And I really hope and trust that we were able to support you all in any transitions that you may be going through. For my work, I have now created a library of courses and healings, and I have a monthly membership where you get access for the whole year and to all these different courses and healings and offerings. And I feel that I'm here for the healing and awakening of human consciousness. So it's really a re-education in how we see life, relationships. I really touch on every aspect of life, from our energy field to rituality to relationships to everyday life, nutrition, everything. And it's both spiritual, but also very grounded in the 3D. So the work is very mystical, but it's very practical in real time, how to create changes in your life. And so the free gift that I decided to offer for this specific experience is my Ascension Codes Grace. And so the Ascension Codes there's 13 of them, and they're like different keys that help to support us in our lives as we grow, change, evolve. And I find that grace is really powerful whenever we're going through transitions. And I like to say that grace is kind of like the miracle work. It's how those divine interventions happen where we don't even have to do anything. It's just all in the works happening for us. And the course that I'm currently, is not really a course, but the spiritual offering that I'm currently going through with people is a 40-day Kali mantra. So Kali is a goddess that has a specific type of frequency that is very powerful. She's very like no mercy, straight to the point. She's going to dissolve and destroy the things in your life that are not in highest alignment, but you can trust that it's to set you on a higher timeline and a higher path. And that's happening now, and you can get inside now and start your 40 days today. And all of these offerings are so supportive through any transitions. And if you're looking for spiritual advancement, you're looking to live your ultimate potential, all of my work is supportive in that. So thank you so much, ladies.
And your free gift, Nikki?
Yeah,
said it.
Oh,
it was the
that is.
code grace.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, I didn't get the correlation. Terrific. Thank you. And Deborah, tell us about you, your
Thank
books,
you.
what you've got going on.
Yes. Well, what I always have going on is supporting you ladies to rock your mojo. And I do that through courses and also a year-long mentorship program with me. So there's numerous ways to come and play and get your mojo on. The thing that I wanted to offer in terms of transition, and when I was really digging in and just really feeling into what could support you most with this topic of going through transitions more potently, the free gift that I put together, it is a beautiful, super simple breath technique that was given to me by one of my spiritual teachers, actually my feng shui master that I studied under for 10 years. And this is it's a personal, internal kind of feng shui remedy that all you need is you and your breath. And you can get that at breathewithdeborah.com. And it guides you through it. So once you get the hang of it, you can certainly do it on your own. But if you're somebody who likes to be guided with a guided meditation, or just, to feel like you're having support, I do that. I do that on the audio for you. And it's a great thing because it's something that could help you get into meditation. But certainly when you go through transitions, there's a particular way to use this breath technique that is all about powerful transitioning in your life and doing it in a way that is embodied and connected to your mojo. So that's the free gift that I put together for everybody. And the thing that I have birthed that I'm so excited about that is available, this is for pre-order. This is my brand new book, and it's called Undressed. And it's an invitation to claim your erotic nature. And this book I'm just so excited about it. It's the most vulnerable I've ever been in my life. This book is going to help you to go through the 7 power centers of the body, and it's going to help you to really tie together your spirit and your sex in a way that nobody else has ever talked about. And when you do pre-order the book, may I give that URL as well?
We'll be giving that.
You'll put it. Terrific.
It'll be distributed
Excellent.
to everyone.
I just want to say that there are 3 free gifts that I put together for that, which as my thank you for pre-ordering the book. So that's another thing that's happening. And you can come play with me on IG. That's like my favorite platform. And of course, you can always listen to my podcast, The Real Undressed.
Amazing, amazing. And thank you for all of that. Yep.
Thank you
I'm sure
for having me.
Everyone is going to be running for those. And everyone, not to worry, you'll get all of this information in an email, as well as how to contact both Dr. Nikki and Deborah, and of course, participate in everything that they offer. And please do check out their work. They are incredible leaders in this world of, as I say, helping people to heal their hearts and live authentic lives. And so with that, we have about 2 minutes. Amy, do you want to talk about your free gift?
Yeah, thank you. My free gift is 4 quick questions to uncover your self-sabotaging beliefs. It comes with a downloadable PDF to, dispel and start changing those beliefs that are keeping you stuck. So it's an easy 3-minute video that you just go into, calming down, little meditation body check. And then you just get these 4 questions, and whatever comes to mind, comes to mind. And it's a great kind of beginnings to understand what might be holding you back or your beliefs about things.
That's beautiful.
Marcy, how about you?
Yeah, so I've written a wonderful little ebook called How to Shift from Self-Sabotage to Self-Love in 5 Days. And it's also very, very powerful. But I want to tell everyone that as members, and I know that Savannah has so wonderfully put the link to our membership in the chat multiple times, that as a member of our Heart-Centered Women's Group, you actually get a free course from our experts every single month. In addition, you get a free live workshop with Amy and I. So this Monday, Amy and I will be doing a deep, deep dive into coaching through the navigation of life's transitions and how to let go of the endings, how to welcome the beginnings. And that's also part of your membership, as well as many other things, including, as we said earlier, getting your questions answered first in line. And having said that, we do have at least one other question that came from our chat, and we will be addressing that in Connect the Dots. By the way, if you've never joined Amy and I for Connect the Dots, it's such a treat. We talk about our own aha moments that we've gotten from listening to each other, because we're always in these modes of giving and receiving. We are both students and teachers simultaneously. And so we always are moved so deeply by the things that are shared from our experts. And we talk about that, as well as spotlighting some other things that we think are really important messages for you to take home, take to your heart, and start to live life differently when you start to implement them into your own life. So having said that, I do want to thank from the very depths of my heart to have Dr. Nikki and Deborah here today. It's been such an incredible experience. Mm-hmm. You've just shared so much with us. We love you and so grateful that you were here. And of course, Amy, I also have to thank you, because as always, you just helped to take us to a whole other level. And I always learn so much from you. I love you and I honor you and I respect you. And thank you so much, everyone. So if you are interested in staying on for Connect the Dots, you don't need to do a thing, but just stay. We're just going to switch over, go into the Connect the Dots room. You don't have to do a thing.
Yes,
anyway,
I want to jump in.
Much love.
Yeah, I want to jump in because if you want to grab that 100 gift card for our audience from our sponsor, grab it. I put it in the chat box. It's I went on it last night. I was like, woohoo! So there's all kinds of goodies in there for you with that savings.
Yeah,
we love to pass that on to you.
Thank you, Trinity World Travel.
Yeah,
what a gift for us all.
Yep. Deborah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I think you beautiful story, and I think you're in Los Angeles, right? We are together. I'm in LA too, so let's connect.
Well, let's connect. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
And by the way, if everyone could please put in the chat, thank these beautiful experts for being here. Let them know you love them too. And, they have so graciously given their time. They've been here for 2 hours, making certain that you get what you need in your life to go forward, completely empowered in a complete and different way. So please let them know how you appreciate them.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. I'm going to stop the recording and restart it for Connect the Dots.